Father, this is my initial experience, and your pencil seems rather oversized for my grasp. Greetings, I am Lily, and I have just turned 18 years of age. My existence has consistently been serene and unassuming, just my father and me. Ever since my mother departed from our lives many years ago, she vanished one day, as though she had dissolved into the ether, leaving behind only voids that my father and I endeavored to fill with warmth and tenderness. We have always been bound together, akin to two vessels traversing a turbulent ocean, steering one another through the tempests of life. A few months ago, I embarked on my university journey, a considerable transition for someone like myself, who had grown comfortable in the familiar embrace of our small, sheltered world. A significant transformation unfolded. Engaging lectures, the thrill of meeting new faces, and the vibrant energy of bustling hallways. The experience was a captivating blend of excitement and apprehension. My father held a sense of pride for me, yet I could perceive the depth of his struggle with solitude. Every time I stepped through the door, his radiant smile would illuminate my day. Yet, the experience of university life quickly transformed into an all-encompassing endeavor. My journey into the world of parties began, driven by an insatiable curiosity. The surroundings were utterly unlike anything I had encountered before. The music blared, unfamiliar faces surrounded me, and an intoxicating sense of freedom pulsed through the air. It was a wholly unfamiliar facet of existence that I had yet to experience. Upon returning home from one of my initial gatherings, I found myself wandering through the hushed streets of the city, enveloped in the stillness of the late hour. My father occupied the kitchen, cradling a cup of tea as he patiently awaited my arrival. His expression held a gentle quality, yet I could perceive the underlying worry that lingered beneath the surface. What was the atmosphere of the party like? He inquired, attempting to maintain an air of nonchalance. It was enjoyable, I responded, steering clear of any details. He nodded, and a heavy silence enveloped the space. A peculiar tension hung in the air between us, yet I opted to dismiss it entirely. Every time I stepped out of the house in the evening, that familiar sense of unease washed over me, as if he dreaded the outside world could change me. That evening unfolded much like any other. Vibrant melodies fill the air, bodies sway to the rhythm, and a refreshing drink is cradled in hand. Yet on this occasion, I allowed myself to venture a bit deeper. The comforting embrace of the alcohol emboldened me, instilling a sense of ease, as if the universe itself mirrored my smile. Upon my arrival home, the hour was quite advanced. The door stood ajar, as it invariably did whenever my father awaited my return. He sat in the living room, his laptop casting a gentle light that accentuated the contours of his face. Even at this late hour, my father appeared poised and self-assured. His broad shoulders and toned physique, complemented by tattoos that peeked from beneath his shirt sleeves, spoke volumes about his commitment to maintaining peak physical condition. His thick, dark hair was impeccably styled, with a few streaks of gray that only enhanced his allure. With a soft step, I entered the room and, drawing near from behind, lightly touched his shoulders. "Ah, a soudaine surprise," I uttered, suppressing a chuckle. My father flinched for a moment, then erupted into laughter, leaning forward in that familiar manner he always adopted when true amusement took hold of him. "Amanda, what are you currently engaged in?" he inquired, his senses drawn to the fragrance of my perfume mingling with the remnants of alcohol on my breath. I embraced life with unrestrained enthusiasm. A soft giggle escaped my lips as a gentle wave of dizziness enveloped me. He rose from his seat and faced me, his hands resting on my shoulders with a blend of gentleness and resolve. His touch radiated warmth and steadiness, as though his hands were destined to protect me from all that surrounded us. His eyes emanated a warmth, yet in an instant, I sensed an unexpected shift, something peculiar. His scent enveloped me, shattering the last vestiges of my drunken tranquility, compelling me to halt in my tracks. My laughter dwindled as I leaned my head back to lock eyes with him. That gaze held all the significance in the world. Concern, affection, embrace. and a whisper of disapproval. Yet, there lingered an additional element. Startled, I swiftly retreated, attempting to chuckle once more to lighten the atmosphere. Your demeanor often leans towards the serious side. Take it easy, I remarked, gesturing dismissively as I made my way to my room. Yet, once the door clicked shut, I found myself sprawled on my bed, time slipping away as if it were hours. The inexplicable feeling that resides deep within me. His voice, steady and resolute, interrupted my musings. Lily, it's time for you to take a shower. It's time for a little rejuvenation. He spoke, tilting his head slightly as he did so. I nodded, steering clear of lingering on his powerful arms crossed over his chest. My heart started to quicken. His care had always seemed to transcend mere obligation. Yet now, an unmistakable change lingered in the air. I strolled to the bathroom, the door left ajar behind me. It came effortlessly to us. Our trust in one another had always been unwavering. I activated the faucet, allowing the hot water to flow over me, its soothing warmth intertwining with the chaotic emotions swirling within my thoughts. As the water cascaded down, my mind drifted to thoughts of him, his hands, once gripping me with unwavering strength, and his smile, which appeared to penetrate the very depths of my soul. Each droplet of water that caressed my skin seemed to bear his essence, as if his touch lingered in the air around me. As I entered the stream, the water enveloped me, its weight bearing down on my neck and shoulders, drawing me gently into its depths. The gentle warmth enveloped me, radiating a soothing heat throughout my being. My mind was a tempest, wholly absorbed by his existence. His image consumed my thoughts entirely, permeating every aspect of my being. I endeavored to focus on the feeling of the water, on the melody of it tumbling down, yet his smile and voice remained vibrant, perpetually echoing in my mind. Suddenly, from the periphery of my vision, I noticed a flicker of motion. Through the narrow crack in the door, I caught sight of my father, poised and observing me. His gaze held a gentle curiosity, and a subtle smile danced on his lips, as if he were equally puzzled by his presence in that moment. My heart appeared to freeze in time as I held my breath, making no attempt to hide from the moment. The water cascaded over my skin, yet in that instant, it seemed to undergo a metamorphosis, as if his gaze infused each drop with a newfound warmth. Our gazes met, and in that moment, it felt as though time had come to a standstill. It brought to mind the ease with which we once exchanged thoughts and feelings, all conveyed through a simple look. His smile, imbued with a tender warmth, had forever been my most cherished possession. From my earliest memories, he would lean in close, a playful glint in his eye as he declared, "Lily, you're my favorite person in the whole world," pausing with an air of anticipation for my reply. "And you belong to me." Throughout those years, he consistently found time for us to connect over something significant. We frequently meandered through the park, fingers intertwined, traversing its winding paths, as if we could protect each other from the vastness beyond our small universe. Those strolls held a special place in my heart. We consistently lingered at the quaint little ice cream shop. "Chocolate," he would declare, a smile spreading across his face, highlighting the charming dimple nestled in his cheek. Chocolate was my constant choice, a quiet ritual that seemed to bind us together. As my ice cream succumbed to the warmth, dripping down my hands, he would chuckle gently, taking a napkin to tenderly wipe away the sticky remnants. He always refrained from uttering a negative word about my mother, even in the wake of her departure from our lives. In some inexplicable way, he summoned the courage to utter, "She merely opted for an alternate existence." That doesn't imply that you lack significance in her life. Yet, deep down, I understood that the words held no truth. There was a noticeable shift in his gaze each time her name was spoken. He concealed his suffering to shield me. To my eyes, my mother resembled a shadow, a figure who disappeared, leaving us in their wake. It was beyond my comprehension how she could turn her back on a man who embodied the essence of an extraordinary father. As time passed, my resentment for her grew stronger, yet he never fostered it. Rather, he imparted to me the essence of kindness. Despite the scars that marred his own heart, which he endeavored to conceal, he consistently sought to illuminate the true essence of love for me, even when his own capacity to give was nearly depleted. In contemplating those instances, I realized the profound impact he had on my being. His kindness, his smile, and the love he offered formed the very bedrock of my existence. Water cascaded down my form as I remained rooted in place, the warmth of understanding gradually permeating my thoughts. My father lingered close by. His expression bore a subtle apology for intruding upon such a private moment. Still, his gaze remained steadfast. A wave of unease washed over me, yet I managed to respond with an unexpected serenity, saying, "Come in." He paused at the threshold of the bathroom. His eyes met mine for a fleeting moment before darting away, as if afraid of what they might reveal. He reached for a chair beside him, grabbed a towel, and remarked, "You're soaked. Allow me to assist you." His voice resonated with a steady familiarity, though I detected a subtle hint of unease lurking beneath the surface. He approached with a carefulness that suggested he feared startling me, and began to dry me with the towel. He began at my shoulders and arms, gradually making his way downwards. His touch was reminiscent, yet it bore an enigmatic freshness that eluded my understanding. As I gazed upon his face, the defined contours of his cheekbones and the resolute strength of his jaw caught my attention, awakening an unfamiliar sensation deep within me. Each movement he executed was intentional and tender, and as he leaned in to wipe the droplets from my neck, I sensed the warmth of his breath. A profound and unfathomable sensation enveloped me, as if we had crossed into a domain where the usual laws ceased to exist. A fleeting notion, "This is wrong," pierced my thoughts. It is strictly prohibited and utterly intolerable. Still, I found myself unable to look away from him. The body I had observed countless times now seemed transformed. His muscles sculpted beneath the fabric of his t-shirt, and the subtle tattoos that flirted with the edges of his sleeves drew my gaze. He had always maintained a fit physique, yet I had never permitted myself to perceive him in this light until now. My heart raced, and I was convinced he could feel it too. For a fleeting instant, he became motionless, the towel clutched in his hand as his eyes remained fixed on mine. It was a transgression, yet in that fleeting moment, it seemed as if the universe had cast aside its constraints. His hands, robust yet tender, exuded a warmth that hung in the air, and every aspect of the moment appeared to challenge the very nature of reality. As he started to dry my hair with the towel, I sensed the tension that had accumulated in my body gradually dissipate. His fingers glided softly across my scalp, caressing the strands with a tenderness that made it impossible for me to keep my eyes open. Water dripped steadily from the tips of my hair, yet each movement of his hands seemed intentional, as if he wished for this moment to stretch on forever. As his fingers grazed the delicate skin of my neck, a rush of warmth enveloped me, radiating through every inch of my being. The tension in my shoulders dissipated, each part of me yielding to the calming embrace of his touch. The bathroom, suffused with gentle illumination, appeared to metamorphose into a realm apart, intimate, confined, and isolated from the outside world. "Is that an improvement?" he inquired gently, his voice a mere whisper yet near. I acquiesced, my eyelids remaining shut. My breath had found its rhythm, yet my heart continued to race, echoing the delicate flutter of a small bee. Each of his gestures spoke volumes beyond mere concern. I could feel it in the way his hands paused briefly before continuing their motion. "You need to rest," he said after a pause, draping the towel over my shoulders. I lifted my gaze and met his eyes. His face loomed near, and his gaze was so intense that it left me breathless. "Thank you," I murmured, scarcely aware of my own voice. He smiled, a subtle crease appearing on his cheeks, a smile that had always brought me solace. Yet now it awakened something profound, something I could no longer overlook. The moment was delicate, teetering on the edge of reality, yet etched in memory forever. We were so close that I could hear his calm, warm breaths mingling with the soft sound of water trickling from my hair. My thoughts drifted aimlessly, cascading like the water gathering at our feet. Tom appeared to stand still, isolating us in this intimate realm. Our gazes intertwined, revealing an unfamiliar nuance in his expression. There was an aspect I had overlooked previously, or maybe one I had simply refrained from acknowledging. It transcended mere care or love. It was a force more potent, one that shattered the defenses I had meticulously constructed within my thoughts. It was unclear who had crossed the line first. It could have been my doing, or perhaps it was simply destined to unfold this way. I leaned in, my heart racing within my chest. My breath hitched as our lips connected. For a brief instant, I entertained the notion that he might withdraw, yet he remained steadfast. His hands settled gently on my shoulders, drawing me nearer with a subtle tug. He met my kiss with a gentle yet confident touch, as if to convey that his feelings mirrored my own. All that surrounded us, the echoes of existence, gradually dissolved into nothingness. Gone were the rules, the restrictions, leaving only the all-consuming sensation that wrapped around us like the warm steam rising in the air. My heart swelled with an unfamiliar sensation, one that was both potent and inescapable. His warmth and touch intertwined with my very essence, as instinctive as the act of breathing. As we separated, I observed that his gaze had intensified, uncovering something he may have concealed until this moment. "Lily," he whispered, his voice rough yet imbued with a softness that made it clear nothing would ever be the same between us again. His hands gripped my waist, and a surge of warmth coursed through me, erasing any uncertainty about the significance of this moment. It was a far cry from the wild, inebriated frenzy I had encountered just an hour prior. This was an experience unlike any other. My heartbeat synchronized with his, and each touch appeared to intensify the bond we shared. As I gazed upon him, all doubt vanished. The feelings I had endeavored to contain, all that I had stored away, now flowed forth unrestrained. He sensed it as well. His eyes betrayed a depth of emotion, while his fingers quivered ever so slightly, resolutely refusing to withdraw. Clarity enveloped my thoughts. The fog of spirits had faded away, yet a different form of exhilaration had emerged in its stead. An intoxicating, all-consuming fervor that enveloped us entirely. My breath quickened as he drew me nearer. "Are you certain?" he inquired gently, his tone subdued and careful, as if wary of breaking the fragile tranquility. I nodded, yet it fell short. As my hand rested upon his chest, I could sense the rhythm of his heart, beating with an intensity that mirrored my own. "Indeed," I murmured. His hand glided upward, following the contours of my sides, yet his touch was gentle, as though he worried I might dissolve like the dawn's fog. Nevertheless, I found myself present, fully engaged, every aspect of my being vibrant in this moment. The water flowed relentlessly around us as he hoisted me from the bathroom's embrace. The cool air enveloped us, contrasting sharply with our warmth, yet my focus remained solely on him. His footsteps were soft yet deliberate as he guided me to his chamber. With a tender touch, he placed me on the bed, embodying the grace of a sacred ceremony, each movement intentional and leisurely. His hand glided softly across my face, lingering at my chin, as he leaned in to connect with my gaze. "Lily," he murmured, his voice rich and gentle. I drew him nearer, unable to endure even a fleeting separation. Nothing remained to restrain our progress. We merged into a singular entity, not just in fervor, but in the silent recognition that an extraordinary bond had perpetually lingered between us. The atmosphere hung heavy with quietude, interrupted solely by the sound of our inhalations. Gentle light seeped through the curtains, enveloping us in a warmth that seemed to transcend the very essence of time. The bed beneath us resembled an island, cut off from the expansive world that lay beyond the closed door. He leaned in, his breath whispering against my skin, his touch both assured and tender, as though he were committing every curve of my body to memory. Every gentle touch stirred something deep within, igniting a wave of warmth that coursed through my very being. My heart pounded fiercely within my chest, and I was convinced he could hear its rhythm. Yet his gaze conveyed no haste, only an endless warmth. His gaze was so intense that I felt completely exposed, transcending mere physical vulnerability. His fingers glided along the contour of my face, brushing against my cheeks before coming to a halt at my chin. As I lifted my face, our eyes met, and in that instant, an unspoken understanding enveloped us, freeing us from all constraints. He leaned in once more, and our lips connected. This moment unfolded in a kiss that lingered, delving deeper, imbued with a profound tenderness that stirred a sweet ache within my chest. His hands swept down my shoulders, each caress laced with purpose, rendering me powerless against the shivers that coursed through my body beneath his touch. It was as if he could sense my emotions, his response imbued with a tenderness that left me utterly moved. The atmosphere surrounding us became increasingly heated, infused with a nearly enchanting energy that appeared to vibrate in the space we occupied. Our movements were slow and intentional, as if we sought to engrave each moment into our minds. In that instant, we were completely attuned to one another, a flawless harmony where everything felt genuine. His warmth enveloped me, and I understood that this memory would remain with me for eternity. He was utterly open and boundless. We lay side by side, enveloped in a silence that resonated, rich and full, rather than hollow. It was a silence that resonated more profoundly than any words ever could. His hand lingered gently on my waist while I gazed at the ceiling, attempting to comprehend the events that had just unfolded. My thoughts were ensnared, suspended in the delicate balance between reality and the deeper significance woven within it all. In that instant, I experienced neither remorse nor embarrassment. Instead, I was enveloped by the warmth and serenity that he consistently infused into my existence. I turned my head to gaze at him. His expression was calm, yet when our eyes locked, they revealed a depth of emotion that his face did not betray. "I am aware," he whispered, as though he had already grasped every sentiment I yearned to convey. "I experienced it as well. Perhaps it's misguided, yet he left it incomplete, and it was unnecessary. All that required expression had been conveyed through our gestures, our caresses, and the glances we exchanged. What comes next?" I inquired gently, my eyes remaining fixed on his. His gaze softened, and a delicate smile graced his lips as he extended his hand to gently weave his fingers through my hair. "We're in no rush," he replied. "We shall continue our lives as we always have. Yet now we possess understanding." I nodded, fully grasping the essence of his words. This moment belonged solely to us, a treasure we would hold close, forever unshared. The events of this night would remain a secret to the world, yet within me, the truth would forever linger, impossible to conceal. It had woven itself into the fabric of my being. He drew me nearer, and I let my head find solace against his shoulder. The unwavering cadence of his heartbeat brought me comfort, and while a myriad of unanswered questions loomed in the distance, one truth remained clear to me. This was our time to shine, our hidden truth, and nothing could ever strip it away from us. The distance that separates us brims with an ineffable essence, a force that is both profound and unwavering, a weighty bond that deepened with every inhalation. The silence had lost its oppressive weight. It had become a silent observer of truths that remained beyond the grasp of others. His hand glided softly along my waist, a tender reminder that this was not a mere figment of imagination, but a truth we had both decided to welcome. I examined his face, seeking confirmation that he shared my feelings, and discovered it in the delicate lines around his eyes and the gentle rise of his lips in a serene, understanding smile. "Do you feel remorse for it?" I murmured, struggling to voice the question that lingered in my mind. His gaze locked onto mine, filled with a conviction I could not muster. "Remorse? Absolutely not, Lily. Not for what is genuine." His words banished the final remnants of uncertainty. We refrained from delving into the future or crafting any plans, Yet I sensed that this moment would linger in our memories for eternity. As I closed my eyes, his breath intertwined with mine, and the very fabric of the world around us appeared to transform. More subdued, gentler. Despite the ambiguity of the journey that lay before them, a singular truth endured. This moment was ours, and ours alone. His fingers glided along the curve of my waist, igniting a warmth that resonated through every fiber of my being. The caress of his breath on my skin grounded me in that instant, a sensation so deep it felt as though it fused our beings into a singular entity.